And we're live.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our COAC meeting. If we could go ahead and get the slides up here. Just want to welcome everyone. It's been a while since we met. Welcome to our May 19th COAC meeting. Next slide, please. Just a reminder that you may view the presentation via Zoom. You'll want to raise your hand to speak. Please remain on mute until recognized. COAC, again, a reminder to the degree that you are comfortable, we ask that you keep your video camera on. And please, if you're not a member of COAC, please keep your video off unless you're speaking. If you have technical difficulties, you can call Monica, 503-479-8674. Next slide, please. Have another packed agenda this evening. We'll go over in just a few moments our ground rules. We'll have a chance to review our last meeting, which was March 17th. We'll receive a project update today by Monica, and we'll receive project committee updates as well. I believe we'll be receiving that either from Dr. Holt or Erica. We'll then receive update by our JV. We'll have a chance for a discussion, and then we will receive public comments, discuss next steps. Next slide, please. For our general public attendees, you will be in listen mode only, but today's meeting will also be live streamed and recorded via YouTube and will be made public on ODOT's project website, which of course is i5rosequarter.org. Next slide, please. Just a reminder for all of you, and of course for COAC, this is not new. Our ground rules is for us to let everyone participate by listening to and respecting diverse views and opinions, for us to listen with an open mind, to value learning from different input, to stay open to new ways of doing things, treat others constructively and respectfully, for us to respect the role of the facilitator to guide the group process, to attack the problem, not the person. Disagreement, frustrations, and differences of opinion are acknowledged, explored, and addressed. So just a reminder for us. Next slide, please. You received an email March 17th meeting summaries. Are there any questions or comments or concerns relative to those meeting notes? Hearing or seeing none. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to invite Monica for a project update. Monica.
Thanks, Jono. And like Jono mentioned, Megan isn't able to join us today, so I'm going to cover a few project updates for her. So first, I wanted to give a status update on the IGA with the City of Portland. It is set to go to Portland City Council early to mid-June, and we've been working with PBOT staff on those final steps to get the information on the council agenda. Really in anticipation of that council meeting in June. And so with that, you should have received a draft IGA letter of support from Monica. And so if you're interested in providing your support, or if you have any feedback on that letter, please continue to work with Monica on getting that input in there. And that letter is also in coordination with the Historic Albina Advisory Board support. And we're also working on coordinating opportunities for those who would like to provide testimony during the city council meeting. So more to come on that through Megan and our communications team here in the coming weeks. And we've also talked several months ago about a letter of support to send to the federal delegation. We are still anticipating to come back later this year to you to talk more about that and continue that discussion. But right now, just wanting to prioritize this city IGA letter as we are going to council soon here in June. The next update that I have is on ODOT's statewide DBE goal update. So ODOT's Office of Civil Rights is releasing today a draft updated statewide DBE goal. So there's going to be 6 different town halls coming in the coming weeks and months to provide comment and feedback on this draft goal. And so we're going to be sending out information on how, when, and where you can participate and provide input on that statewide process. As soon as we get more details here, like I said, that is getting released today. So I don't know what that exact percentage is yet, but I do want to note that the DBE goal for ODOT projects statewide will be going up. This is good news that the agency really is not just focusing on Rose Quarter's desires to be different and set higher standards, and that these higher goals will now be common practice statewide. So some good news there. Also, we don't know quite yet how or if this will impact Rose Quarter's goals directly, but we will be digging into that and can come back with more information at a future meeting. And then the last update I wanted to give is just on some upcoming field work that you might notice around the Rose Quarter area. So starting in late May and continuing through June, we have some contractor crews that will continue the geotechnical investigations, looking at soil and material sampling around the project area. And this is really design or pre-development work, not construction work. And they're all kind of activities, exploration work to support the design and help us get ready for construction next year. And we're really trying to combine this work with other ODOT maintenance work in the area to minimize impacts to the Rose Quarter area. So those were my 3 updates, and I will turn it back to the group if there's any questions. And turn it back to you, Jono.
Great. Any questions, James Polsey? You're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me okay now?
Yep, we can hear you.
So I don't even know where this fits, but you know, I'm concerned about Amber and how she left and how that all played out. And this is probably not the right time to do it, but I really hope that we share a letter of appreciation or show some acknowledgement that Amber and her crew put into the work of this project. I don't know the circumstances, but I think we need to show a little respect and decency and show some appreciation for the work that Amber and her crew put in. They're gone, obviously, but somebody ought to address that. It was very abrupt to me, and I'm hopeful that somebody, I don't know who I'm addressing this to, Monica, but you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we are definitely appreciative of all the work that Amber and her team over several years provided to Rose Quarter, and are sad to see her go. But yeah, we are. She definitely put her heart and soul into everything that she did here on Rose Quarter.
So I'm looking to see some acknowledgement of appreciation from this group going forward to Amber as soon as possible. And I don't know how we do that. I can chip in whatever it takes to get something of appreciation to her.
Great. Thank you for that. And I concur. Amber is a great colleague and friend, and some members of her team are still with us today helping. Okay. Any other comments, questions? With that, Bill, I'm turning it over. Actually, before that, Erica, I would like to invite Erica to provide an update on HAB.
Well, tonight it will be me. Thanks, John.
Okay. All right.
Appreciate that.
You guys always keep it fresh. You never know who's going to get it.
You know what? If we didn't, you'd get bored. And so we've got to figure out a way to throw a curve every now and then. Good evening, everybody. Just want to give you a real quick update on the Historic Albina Advisory Board. We met on Tuesday, and part of what I was going to share, Monica talked about in the letter for the IGA, the joint letter from the HAB and the COAC, very important opportunity for both of these historic groups and groups that have been invested and involved in this work to weigh in and speak to the value around the intergovernmental agreement. There's also an intent to get support from the federal delegation to ensure that this work go forward and that all of the effort that's been spent over the last several years to think about, coordinate, organize where we've come to isn't wasted. So please take a look and give your feedback so that we can get all the edited language in and get the letter over to the necessary partners. The second thing I want to talk about is the Youth Design Forum that just happened this past weekend. There was an opportunity that brought together 50 young people for experience living science outside, ELSO. And we gathered at Emmanuel Church, where Bishop C.T. Wells is the pastor. And these young people had the opportunity to weigh in on and share their thoughts about the I-5 Rose Quarter project, on all of the aspects of the project. And we garnered great suggestions, great feedback, great engagement. It was a tremendous time for the project. And I would say the first of what hopes to be multiple other times where teenagers can be engaged in this work and get exposed to this work, and potentially even for some become a part of this work. So that was an exciting event. And then we spent the rest of the time on our urban design team giving the updates regarding the next phase of urban design as we continue to move forward and lay out plans for the early work packages. So that was Tuesday's meeting. It was a short meeting, but absolutely a condensed one in terms of content. And we will be meeting in the following month. The biggest issue hanging in front of us is the intergovernmental agreement. So please take a look at that, and whatever edits and feedback you would have would be more than welcome and excited. So John L., that's it for the HAB update, sir.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Holt. Any questions for Dr. Holt?
Just a quick question. Dr. Holt, what was the age range, if you don't mind?
We were intent, thank you, great question. The initial intent was for high school students, so 9th through 12th, but we actually ended up with 6th graders. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade showed up. The goal is to continue to expose as many young people as possible. Great question, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Webb.
Terrific work to engage our young people at an early age to start thinking about engineering and the construction fields and trades. We can never start too early, I think, as we look at the workforce shortages facing us.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this too, that it was advertised at Tubman. And so they were made aware of it and asked to participate. So pretty
terrific.
Yeah.
Great. Other comments, questions, Dr. Holt and HAB? Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Holt, and thanks for HAB's continued leadership in helping to guide the program. It's so important. With that, I am turning it over to Bill for the JV update and discussion.
Hey, great. Thanks, John. Now, good evening, everybody. So a little change of pace now that we've passed the milestone of approving the diversity plan. Tonight is primarily going to be a pre-construction update where we report out to you on current progress that is being made, all consistent with that diversity plan. So tonight, presenting on package A and package B updates. With me tonight is going to be Brianna and then D'Angelo Moning. And D'Angelo's new to the group, so I was going to ask him just real quick if he'd introduce himself to the COAC team.
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that don't already know me, my name is D'Angelo Moning. I'm a third-generation Portlander and a native of 30 years, and I'm currently supporting the Hamilton-Sutton Joint Venture team as the Community Engagement Coordinator. I'm honored to be responsible for the ongoing community outreach and implementation of the Strategic Communications Plan to ensure that our greater Black community is aware of these transformative opportunities that this project will present to this outlying corridor. I'm grateful for the opportunity to present to you all tonight. And I look forward to continuing to work towards equitable participation on this project and other future large infrastructure projects for our impacted Black community. Thank you.
Thanks, D'Angelo. I invited him in tonight because he's been instrumental in helping us get these first few packages out on the streets and helped quite a bit with the outreach. As always, Brianna has her fingers on all the dials, so she'll start out tonight talking about package A, scopes of work and solicitations. Brianna, you want to take over?
Yep, thanks, Bill. You can go to the next slide, please. So just to give everyone an overview of early work package A, just really quickly. So as everyone knows, it's on the north end of the project. So roughly where on the south end, it starts where Harriet Tubman Middle School is and extends north roughly to where I-5 and I-405 intersect, highlighted in orange there. Next slide, please. So as part of early work package A, we've identified 3 mini CMGC scopes. The first being the civil scope, so that includes some streetscape work on North Kirby and Russell Street, and that also includes some stormwater improvements on those streets, as well as installation of a stormwater swale and a water quality treatment vault closer to North Mississippi Ave there to the left. The next mini CMGC scope of work is the retaining walls. So we have retaining wall 1, retaining wall 2A, and as well as the sound wall as part of that scope. And the last is the sign structure. So we have a few truss sign bridges as part of their mini CMGC scope, as well as some bridge mounted signs. And also part of the sign structure scope is ITS and electrical work as well. So next slide, please. Selection for the 3 mini CMGC firms will be based on best value selection. So this is a summary of the different budgets we've anticipated for these scopes. So for the retaining wall scope, we've budgeted around $3 million. The civil scope, we've budgeted $2 million. And for the sign structure scope, we've budgeted again at $2 million. Next slide, please. And as part of this best value selection process, we've asked the proposers to submit a 15-page maximum written proposal. And we've asked that these proposals include the firm's general qualifications, their approach to the work, their approach to diversity and outreach, as well as their organization and key personnel. And finally, the last thing that we asked them to do is to submit a price evaluation based off of the 60% design plans that we received. And all of these together is what we are using to evaluate the firms and select the firms. Next slide, please. So as part of the mini CMGC scope, we are looking to have these firms participate in the pre-construction services phase. So the pre-construction services phase, we're anticipating to start this fall, and that would include getting them on board, getting them integrated to our HSJV team, and they'll participate in our plan reviews, our spec reviews, as well as participate in the various design meetings and constructability meetings as they relate to their CMGC packages. And we'll also be asking them to participate in the 90% as well as the 98% cost estimates. Next slide, please. This is an overall summary of the outreach we've done. So we've placed advertisements in the DJC, the Scanner, the Portland Observer, and the Asian Reporter. We, as an HSJV, has also hosted our own event, and that included 30 participants. We've also been presenting at various community organizations such as NAMAC and PBDG, and both of those we've presented to over 150 participants. And Bill Bruce has been doing a lot of one-on-one phone calls reaching out to people. And through all of that outreach, we came out with 11 firms that expressed interest in our project. Next slide, please. So of those 11, there were a few that didn't quite match the mini CMGC firms that we were looking for. But of those firms, there were 8 total that we've decided to move forward with and send RFPs to. So Affordable Electric, Igami Construction, Phazon Construction, Just Bucket, Northwest Infrastructure, O'Neill Electric, Advanced Tribal, and Alcantar are all of the interested firms in the Early Work Package A mini CMGCs. Next slide, please. So what we're doing just to ensure success of these firms on our project, we're really looking to match these firms' expertise and capacity with the scope of work that they'll be participating in. So for the walls, we've narrowed it down to Advanced Tribal, Just Bucket, and Northwest Infrastructure. So those proposals have actually already been received, and evaluation of those proposals are currently in progress. For the civil scope, we have Alcantar, Phazon, Just Bucket, and Northwest Infrastructure. So we've issued RFPs for those on April 11th, and we're anticipating proposals to be due tomorrow, actually, as well as the sign structure. So we have Igami, O'Neill Electric, Affordable Electric, and Advanced Tribal. Similar to the civil, we issued RFPs on April 11th with their proposals due tomorrow. Next slide, please. Oh, now I'll be passing it off to D'Angelo to talk about Early Work Package B.
Thank you, Brianna. Next slide, please. So the Early Work Package B, similar to the Early Work Package A, is still obviously in the I-5 corridor. It is closer to the southern end, where I-5 meets 405, or I-5 meets I-84 south, as well as I-84 north. Next slide, please. And so with the Early Work Package B, we've identified 3 different scopes, very similar to Early Work Package A. There are also retaining walls, civil scope, and sign structures and illumination. Next slide, please. So with the best value selection that Brianna mentioned for those 3 mini CMGCs, we have 3 budgets for each scope. We have a budget of $9 million for the first scope, which is the wall scope, a budget of $3 million for the civil scope, and a budget of $3 million again for the sign structure scope. Next slide, please. So we have done a lot of outreach for both early work packages. With the Early Work Package B, again, we targeted the DJC, the Scanner, the Portland Observer, and the Asian Reporter. We also held an Early Work Package B showcase where we engaged in interested firms to see what expression of interest could come of that. We also presented to NAMAC and PBDG along with other identified organizations that led to over 150 participants. Bill, again, has taken the lead to have one-on-one phone calls with lots of individuals. And as a result, we came out with 12 expressions of interest. Next slide, please. So out of those, we have Affordable Electric, Igami Construction, Phazon, Just Bucket, O'Neill Electrical, Evergreen, Advanced Tribal, Limit Technical Fabricators, and Alcantar. And so out of the amount that we had, these are the 9 that were actually interested firms. Next slide, please. So with the Package B walls, we have Advanced Tribal, Just Bucket, and Evergreen as the firms that we've identified that have the matching expertise and the capacity with that scope. So that RFP was issued on May 16th. With the civil package, we've identified Alcantar, Phazon, and Just Bucket. And that RFP will be issued on June 20th. And finally, with the sign structures, we have Igami, O'Neill, Affordable, Advanced Tribal, and Limit Technical Fabricators. And that will also be issued on June 20th. Next slide, please. And so in summary, we're anticipating, like it says, 3 mini CMGCs to start pre-construction services for package A. Similar, we'll also anticipate 3 mini CMGCs to start pre-construction services for package B. And we are anticipating package C procurements to be sometime next year. Next slide, please. And I will leave this open to group discussion. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, D'Angelo and Brianna. And so it's nice to be able to do a report out in a CMGC format. When you are able to write a subcontract for pre-construction services to a mini prime, that's the equivalent of breaking ground in my experience on a project. Even though there's no work, you've started to bring on the participants that are going to do the work, and also bring them into that project-based technical assistance component that we described in the diversity plan. So a lot of exciting stuff in the works here. So tonight, a little different format. We're not, maybe I should hand this over to you, Janelle, if you want.
You're doing fine, Bill. Please
Okay.
keep going.
All right. We're since we're reporting out more than asking for advice, we thought we'd stay in one group and ask you, do you have any questions or comments related to the progress on these 2 early work packages? Would you like to discuss any of the information in more detail than what we've presented? So open forum for COAC members to ask questions.
Any questions, comments for our CMGC team? James?
Yeah, I'm just curious to know at first glance, the workforce for these companies that you're looking at, Bill, are they able to put up workforces that's going to help you meet what I consider pretty aggressive goals in meeting the workforce goals that we set forth early on? My experience is how you start out is how you end up. And I'm just curious to know what the expectation is right now.
I'll take a shot at that. I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what these companies' workforces look like. And I think that all those green sheet analysis that we did in the development of the diversity plan used that same knowledge in making those assessments. That's one part of how I would answer that question. The second part of how I would answer that is that in bringing them into a pre-construction services environment allows us opportunity to start improving their workforce ahead of the project. These scopes of work don't physically break ground till first quarter of 2024. So we have like a year and a half to whoever gets picked. It is a competition, so they got to win each one of these 6 opportunities. And whoever is successful in winning those opportunities comes on board, and I anticipate that we'll assess their workforce and we'll start making moves to place people or improve their workforce on their current work. So that's just a strategy. So that's my response. There was a question in the chat from Joe. I think he said I think it was directed at COAC members. Are COAC members happy with the number of approved applicants?
Anyone want to weigh in on Joe's question?
Well, the question is whether or not Bill and the joint venture is happy with the number of participants or applicants for this process.
I anticipated this question to come up. So my response is that because a lot of these are the same contractors that you would see here in the city of Portland that would be participating on public works projects. So rather than us operating off of past experiences, what we did was we reset. We went back to co-bid, and actually D'Angelo was the one who worked with me to do this. We went to co-bid and we took the entire co-bid list, the entire list, and we went through it line by line and manually, he and I, filtering out first contractors that were relevant to these scopes of work, in our opinion, and second, contractors that were relevant to the Portland metropolitan area. So we applied those two filters manually and came up with a list that had 31 names on it. And so when they said Bill had been making a lot of phone calls, I called and talked to each of those 31 firms. And then we held our own event and did an event for PVG and NAMAC. And we asked them to express to us if they were interested in the project. And out of that, we got 11 names on A and 12 on B. And you saw that we excluded a few and got down to 8 and 10, I think, on A and B. The exclusions were firms that were not, that expressed interest, but weren't small business concerns. You know, there are companies like MEI or Kerr Contractors. Or so I have to say, I obviously know all the firms that are on that list. But until I went all the way back to the whole co-bid list and went through that process, I didn't know what to expect. So that's the response. There were 30 firms that, in our opinion, were relevant to these scopes of work and the Portland market. And of those 30 firms, only 11, forget the numbers now, only 11 were interested in A, and out of the 11, only 8 qualified, and only 12 were interested in B, and of the 12, only 10 qualified.
So, Bill, I'm curious to know what the delta is in terms of those firms who maybe took a first look at this and for whatever reason didn't qualify. The issue for me is whether or not there is some opportunity going forward to bridge the delta of why they could not or should not or could not participate on this project, or they lost interest, or they thought it was too complicated. Whatever the objections were presented by those firms that didn't meet the criteria, I'd like to look at that at some point.
Yep.
Good. Feel me on that.
Yep.
And Michael Birch has a question in the chat box. Have the review committee members been selected yet?
The package A selection committee has been put together and has just completed their first evaluation for the wall scope on package A. The committee's comprised of 3 people from HSJV, myself included, Matt O'Connell included, and then an owner's representative from the A&E team and two owners representatives. I don't know if everybody wants me to give their names out, but that's where we're comprised of right now. And they did a pretty good job on the first one.
Right.
That was my question. And thank you for the answer, because the second part was who are these folks, right? So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. We try to comprise the selection committee of primarily the joint venture, because we have the intimacy with the work and the firms, and then also try to have a couple people from ODOT or the owner's rep to be involved, so they can see all the inner workings.
And Felicia has a question. How can the COAC committee help you in this process?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, there's been a conversation going with some of us lately about, you know, this phase of the COAC. How do you help us? My answer is, you know, this isn't the first citizens oversight committee on a large project in Portland. It's pretty common. And historically, once you get into construction or pre-construction, we look to a COAC to bear witness, so that they could provide support, not just in these meetings in this forum, but in the day-to-day representing the project. So that would be my response, simply saying that we want to make sure that this COAC has all the information that we have related to the project, so they can bear witness to the rest of the city of Portland to how we're operating.
Right. Other questions, comments? This is a terrific discussion.
I have one more question.
Yes, please.
And historically, in the city of Portland, the LMCOCs have typically not had the pre-apprenticeship programs in those meetings. The LMCOCs, they used to leave them out. Now that they're included, they can help a contractor find out where the available bodies are in the community. So just wondering if you had planned to invite them, or if I missed it and you did already.
Another great question. If we're just talking about pre-apprenticeship groups, there's 4 that we've identified that we want to work with in the diversity plan. As of last week, we've only been meeting with them individually on our own. I don't know if this is an official word or not, but I got word last week that the 4 pre-apprenticeship organizations had agreed to work as a consortium in relationship to a large project like this. And I know Joe's on the call, so maybe he wants to chime in. But we're still working with ODOT right now to try to create something more than just our normal support for pre-apprenticeship programs in terms of funding and relationship. And our workforce advocate, Terrence, who may or may not be on the call tonight, has been out there, you know, learning the ropes, if you will, on how to connect the dots with everybody. But we have not been actively placing people in the past few months. We did for a few months back, 6 months ago. We placed about 9 people, just going around trying to connect the dots between projects that we were working on or had a relationship, basically just to grease the skid, if you will. But since then, we haven't been doing much. We feel like by bringing these mini primes on, it creates another place where we can focus on their current work that they have for doing some more placements. So I'm rambling. I don't know if Joe has anything to add to this question.
Joe, do you want to jump in?
Joe,
Lyle place and trying to do two things at once. Yeah, no. So what was stated about us working as a consortium is true. I can validate that. And I can say and speak for the collaboration that, we're excited and eager to continue to move this work forward. And that's about all I have on details, but as a coalition, we're ready to go.
James?
Yeah, I just want to pick up on Bill's piece when he was talking about the COAC and our current role and what we've historically done around diversity. I'm not sure whether I'm getting out in front of the discussion or not, but does that have anything to do with the meetings you're trying to hold, Janelle, in the next couple of weeks about how this COAC is currently configured and what our mission and et cetera, et cetera? Can you speak to that so I can?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think all of you at this juncture should have been reached out to by members of my team for check-ins. Many of you have been serving on COAC for almost 3 years now. So we want to do a check-in to identify what's working, what can be improved, and your willingness to continue to serve. But B, we know that we've lost a number of folks around our table. And as we look forward to construction, we want to make sure that we are having conversations with you as well as other members in our community to determine who might be missing or who do we need to include around the COAC table to, again, continue to strengthen our expertise. So that's kind of the purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good thought. The name Community Oversight Advisory, for me, I take that really seriously. And I'm looking at the people who we have on this COAC, and many of us have been on, like you say, for 3 years. And I think we've gotten over the hump around the diversity part, so to speak, even though there's that whole monitoring and accountability piece. But at the end of the day, that mission, I think, pretty much has been achieved. I mean, in terms of those goals. So now, trying to define how we go forward, because from day one, even in this context, I've been concerned that we really don't have a full representation of our community in this process. And I can think right there, that whole Elks Lodge there with its membership and the people who are going to be impacted by that. We've got the school over there, PBS, and somebody, that principal over there, whether or not, being moved or not moved, that's impacted. We got the Red Cross there. There's a business association going all the way down William Street. Those people, regardless of what their racial composition are they in this hood? And we're going to have to, I think, figure out some way to involve those people in this process to really call this a community oversight advisory thing. And at the end of the day, people, even those folk who we came up against, I'm talking about the albino, what's the name? The albino, what do you call it? Y'all know what I'm talking about, the albino, somebody tell me the name of that thing.
The Albino Vision Trust?
Yeah, the Albino Vision Trust. Those folk, I think, genuinely have some concerns about how we do this project. And I guess I could ramble on a lot, but I'm looking for a defined way in which we really expand this COAC to
Mr. Posey, again, as I indicated, that's the purpose of these discussions that we'll be having. It's those types of ideas that I think will be helpful. So you're a little ahead of us right now, but those are the types of comments as well as recommendations that will be helpful as we again look to increase our membership. As you indicated, this particular committee has accomplished a lot with respect to the diversity plan and some of our early goals. And so now looking into the future, we need to figure out who do we need with us. So those are good thoughts. But I also want to make sure we're staying on topic here in terms of providing comments to the CMGC relative to the early work packages. Do we have any comments or thoughts relative to topic at hand?
John L., I would just offer to close out the topic at hand that, you know, one of the blessings that I've counted from having the debate over the CAP design has forced us into breaking the project up into 4 packages. The original diversity plan only contemplated 3 to 5 mini CMGC opportunities. By breaking the project into the 4 components, we've essentially almost tripled the number of mini CMGC opportunities. They're smaller packages likely, but I think they afford even a greater opportunity for us to bring in a larger number of DBEs that have never had this opportunity to come work with what I think is a world-class joint venture with Sun and Hamilton and really learn a lot and then go out and build a piece of the project. So I'm really excited for package A and B and then C when it gets here to do this work, to bring these firms on board and give them this opportunity to learn and grow their companies.
And Bill, actually, to that point, could you give a little foreshadow as to what's kind of coming up next relative to the CMGC's work, relative to the work packages?
Sure. What'll happen is we'll make a selection for the walls in package A likely tomorrow, which will allow us to onboard one contractor to start working pre-construction services like Brianna described. Then probably likely 2 weeks from now, we'll make an award on the other 2 package A scopes, the Russell Street improvements and the sign bridge structures. So at that point, there's a likelihood that we have 3 different contractors on board, and we'll onboard them and they'll start attending meetings. We'll give them a debrief on their proposals so that they can likely improve on responding to RFPs, and then we'll start them in on constructability workshops so that they can get ready for their 90% estimate coming later this year. Then we're going to do that same process for package B in June and July. So by the end of July, we likely have anywhere between, say, 3 and 6 firms on board. And even though the direction of COAC may change in the coming months, we'll always have a component that will be reporting out, in my mind, on progress, whether it's pre-construction services with the mini primes, or whether it's eventually it'll be talking about construction services and workforce hours and apprenticeship hours, and that's all coming 2024.
Great, thank you for that. Additional questions, comments? for Bill, CMGC?
So Janelle, you kind of cut me off here, buddy. I just want to let you know.
Well, we both know cutting you off is a near impossible feat.
I know,
So I don't know that that's accurate.
but I want you to understand. I have not been pleased with the responsiveness of the leadership on how this thing has been operating. For me, I need to see. With a schedule. I'm a contractor. I want to know. I have to have benchmarks and guideposts. It could be next year before we get this COAC thing worked out based upon the way it's been laid out. So I want you to know I have some anxiety about getting on this and getting on it now, because our people in our community need to be a part of this from the beginning and not wait until we got everything figured out. We need to bring people on board so they can be committed to making this project a success. And Bill knows this. Unless you got full community support, you're working uphill, you're pushing a rock uphill. So therefore, that's why I'm anxious to get as many people committed to this process as we possibly can. And now, I'll shut up now.
Thank you for that. Your point is well taken. We also don't want to discount the number of community folks we have represented around the HAB table as well, who are also participating in this process. But I don't think it's a long timeline. I think ODOT has the interest in populating COAC within the next month or two. So we're not talking long term here, but more to come on that. Again, I'll have more as we have conversations in our one-on-one check-ins as well. So, Monica, did you want to weigh in additionally on that point? Nope. Okay.
No, I think you covered it all, Jenna.
Right. Great. Any other thoughts, comments? Otherwise, we're going to go to public comment. Okay. Tempest, if we can get public comment up, or I don't know if Natalie is handling that.
Thank you, John L.
Okay.
Members of the public viewing the meeting on the live stream are invited to make a verbal public comment by phone at this time. If you wish to do so, please dial the phone number shown in the left side of the screen, and then when prompted, enter the meeting ID and passcode shown on the left side of the screen. The phone number is 971-247-1195. The meeting ID is 880-3045-7705. And the passcode is 518722. After doing so, you will be placed in a virtual waiting room until your turn to speak. When the time comes, we will invite you to unmute yourself and speak your comment. Speakers will have up to 2 minutes for their comment and will be muted at time. If you'd like to provide more extensive comments to the members of the COAC, please see the options listed on the meeting agenda. If you're joining us on the live stream, please remember to mute your speakers to minimize feedback. With that, I'm checking to see if there's anyone wishing to make a comment in the waiting room. And I don't see any commenters at this time, John L.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that. Monica, any closing remarks before we conclude the meeting?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your continued support and a great conversation this afternoon, and do look forward to those conversations to continue to grow COAC and make sure we have good community representation, and that COAC continues to be a successful committee as we move forward into construction.
Great. And just a reminder to please take a look at the email Monica sent over relative to the IGA letter. If you'd like to participate in that, please let us know, or if you have edits or comments. And then again, we'll be having one-on-one check-ins with each of you as we look at the future of COAC. So thank you all for your participation. We ended earlier today, so enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you next month. Thanks, everybody.